everyone, my name is Paige and today I'm going to be doing my November wrap-up and December TBR. I should have a warning in advance to say that I'm probably going to have my laptop on my lap the entire time because I honestly can't remember all the books that I read in November and I don't own a lot of them because I got them from the library or whatever, so just if I keep looking down, that's why. Especially for this first one because I can like barely pronounce the author's name. I read a total of 13 books in the month of November, which is pretty exciting. I think as usual I've been really surprised with how much I've been reading each month. I mean, I guess I don't really have much else going on. I'm still job hunting, but I'm still pretty impressed with how much I read. So the first book that I finished in November was Sailor Moon Eternal Edition number 5, and this is by Naoko Takeuchi. Again, I hope I'm saying that right. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Again, I didn't enjoy it as much as the first two Sailor Moon Eternal Editions that I had read, but it was still pretty enjoyable for me. And actually, disappointingly, now that I'm thinking back on it, I can't remember like much of anything that was going on in this one. I know we were introduced like more in depth to more of the Sailor Moon characters, but other than that, I honestly like don't even remember the villains or anything. I just think they're not very memorable. So I think honestly at this point I'm going to stop reading the series because it's just kind of not as interesting for me. The next book I read this month was In the Hand of the Goddess. This is the second book in the Song of the Lioness series, which follows the character of Alana, and this is by Tamara Pierce. I have quickly fallen in love with Tamara Pierce's work and this series. I flew through the entire thing in November. You'll see the other books pop up in this video, but I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoy how much the characters have grown, literally and more like figuratively and in a character sense, strictly speaking. And these are just so short and quick, and I love reading them and just getting to know more of the characters. And then I actually started the Immortal series immediately following this series, and these characters pop up again, which is really exciting. So I love just constantly seeing them throughout all of Tamara Pierce's work, which is very exciting. So I totally enjoyed this and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was 5 Dark Fates, which is the last book in the 3 Dark Crown series by Kendara Blake. Obviously I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I have been raving about this series ever since I started reading it, I think in October, which wasn't that long ago, but I have just been loving it so much, and to see it all come together at the end was very sad, but also very like exciting and thrilling, and there was just so much that happened in this last one and I never wanted it to end, and I love these characters so much, and it was a very sad ending, but I don't know, it was very memorable too. Like, I'll remember this series for a long time and it'll be something I clearly want to reread again and again. I know I've talked to some people on like Instagram and Twitter and stuff, and they mentioned that they were having a hard time getting through this series. So what I highly recommend doing is listening to the audiobook because the reader is just excellent, and it's the same reader throughout all 4 books, and she's just great. So definitely try that if you're struggling with this series. Alright, the next book I read was The Woman That Rides Like a Man. Again, this is the 3rd book in the Song of the Lioness series by Tamara Pierce. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. I think it was the one that I enjoyed the least out of the entire series, and I can't really say why. I think because it was so focused on Alana and there wasn't any of like the normal characters surrounding her, but we did get introduced to a lot new characters, which was very interesting. But I think there was just something kind of off about this book for me, and that's why I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I still love this series though, like, oh, so good. And then obviously immediately following that I read Lioness Rampant, which is the last book in the Song of the Lioness series by Tamara Pierce. I also think this is like the longest of the series because it's pretty thick. It's like 384 pages. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It was again bittersweet to be ending this series, but it was just a really awesome ending and I really enjoyed it. I loved seeing how all the characters ended up where they are for the series that are to come. As I mentioned earlier, I started reading the Immortal series, and you kind of see like where the characters are in those, but how they got there is really explained in this one, and I just totally enjoyed that. And I love Alana and Jonathan and George and like all those characters, just so awesome. And I know I'm like totally late to this series because this came out like a long time ago, but if you haven't picked up any of Tamara Pierce's work, I recommend starting with this one, or this series at least, and just breezing your way through it because it's so good. So then following that, because I was so obsessed with Tamara Pierce's work, I then read Wild Magic, which is the 1st book in the Immortals series. This series follows the character of Dane, and she can speak to animals, which I think is just totally awesome. I ended up giving this this one, again, 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the story, and it was very quick and fast-paced, and you're introduced to a lot of new characters, but as I mentioned, you get to see a lot of old ones again, which is also really cool, and they're like much older, and I don't know, it's just really cool to see them like very established. Dane is also very young at the very start of this series, which is very cool because you get to see her grow up through it and see everything that she goes through with the brand new characters, and it was just a lot of fun. I love seeing how characters use magic in different ways throughout Tamara Pierce's work, and obviously, as I mentioned, Dane speaks to animals, so that was really a cool take on the magic system, and I just really enjoyed it. And also I got this book for $1 at the used bookstore, so I'm very happy about that. Okay, immediately following that, I read Wolf Speaker, which is the second book in the Immortal series. Again, gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, really enjoyed it, loved the story. Honestly, can't say much more than that. Correction, I actually gave this one 3 out of 5 stars, so I think I'm thinking of the third book. This one I think I enjoyed the least. It was like about when Dane goes back with her wolf pack, which again, interesting, but like, I just felt like there could have been more of a story there, and I still really enjoyed it, obviously, but not as much as the first one. Okay, this next book I read was one that I had mentioned last month that I wanted to get through, and I did, and I listened to the audiobook slash kind of read the book. It was a bit of a mix of both for me. But that's Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, totally loved it, really fell in love with it, and I really enjoyed listening to the audiobook. So I had mentioned last month that I wasn't sure if the audiobook was reading all of the footnotes that are contained within the book, but they actually are. I checked out a book from the library just to see, like, as the reader was going, if he was jumping down to the footnotes, and he was, and it honestly didn't make me that confused. I feel like if I had just read it, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. But the reader did a really excellent job, and I really, really loved the story. There was just so much going on throughout it, and it's kind of crazy and wild, and Jay Kristoff's writing is a little unique. I'm not even a little unique, it's a lot unique, and it really, really shows, and I really enjoyed it. Then immediately following that, I read God's Grave, which is the second book in the Nevernight series by Jay Kristoff. Again, 5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed that one. There is a completely new set of characters that come up in this one. Obviously, we still follow the main character of Mia, but there are just other people, and there's more secrets revealed and things about the world that we've come to know about, and it was just really fun. There was more of a like gladiator type arena thing going on in this one, which I actually really enjoyed and made me in the mood to read The Valiant by Leslie Livingston, which I have somewhere on my bookshelf. So I definitely loved that aspect of it. Obviously I need to read, what's the last book in the series called? Dark Dawn, but the audiobook hasn't come into my library yet, so that's why I haven't read it yet in November. Oopsie. You can clearly see I was on a fantasy kick this month, but I feel like that's not only restricted to this month because I've been just so obsessed with fantasy lately. But that being said, the next book that I read was Assassin's Apprentice, and this is by Robin Hobb. I was looking for fantasy book recommendations on YouTube / booktube last month, and Robin Hobb's work kept coming up, and I was like, a fantasy that's written by a woman is like something that I'm automatically interested in, because as I was talking to my mom about this, like, you can just tell that fantasy written by men is very different than fantasy written by women, and I really wanted to read one that's written by a woman, especially a high fantasy series like this one, and Assassin's Apprentice was just so good. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I breezed through it so quickly, and oh, it was just amazing. What is that noise? I can't wait to read the next one in this series. I actually just got the audiobook the other day from my library, so I am like ready to go on it, but I'm reading a couple other things right now, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I just can't say enough good things about this series. If you're like kind of wary about starting high fantasy or fantasy in general, I think this is a good start because it's not like super confusing, which is what I was worried about. And again, if you feel overwhelmed, I highly, highly recommend listening to the audiobook because the reader, again, for this does such a good job. And he has this like really nice British accent, which I love. And the story itself is just interesting. Like, the reader doesn't even need to be that good because the story itself really just like flows off the page. And I don't know, I really, really liked it and highly, highly recommend this series now. Oh my god. Oh my god, kick the camera. Okay, I just accidentally kicked my tripod, so if we're at a little bit of a different angle, my bad. The next book I read was Emperor Mage, the third book in the Immortal series by Tamara Pierce. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Again, excellent, excellent, excellent. Once again, very, very good. Very, very enthralling and interesting, and I just really liked it. Okay, and then I read Realm of the Gods, which is the last book in the Immortal series by Tamara Pierce. So I finished the Alana series and the Immortal series all in 1 month, which is just craziness, but they're pretty short. short, so I kind of figured I would breeze through them, but again, the audiobooks were just amazing for them. I've been listening to so many audiobooks lately because I've been really into like sewing lately, so I've been just listening to a lot of books while I've been sewing and quilting and stuff, and it's just, oh, it's so much fun. I love it. But I gave this last book 3 out of 5 stars. Again, I think it kind of like dipped off towards the end a little bit. I wasn't super impressed with the ending, but I know that Dane pops up in one of the future series as well, actually the one immediately following this, which is also very exciting, and Numair and a couple other characters. I just really like that element of it, that Tamara Pierce weaves characters all throughout her series. But that's the other thing too, is like if you're gonna read these series, I definitely recommend reading them in order. Otherwise you might get a little confused and be like, wait, who's this character? And there's like minor spoilers here and there. So definitely start with Alana, then go to Immortals, and then Protector of the Small, which I'll talk about in just a second. Which, that being said, the last book that I read this month was First Test by Tamara Pierce. This is the first book in the Protector of the Small series. I really enjoyed this one too. This is kind of like the Alana series, except the main character, Kel, doesn't have any magic like elements. She doesn't wield magic. She's not a mage or anything. She can't talk to animals. She's just quote unquote normal. It was interesting to read about all of that from a character's perspective who doesn't have magic and doesn't wield magic. I think Kel is just a really interesting character too. There's a lot of like sexism that goes on in this book, and Tamara Pierce does a really good job of talking about the ways that Kel like tries to overcome it, and all the characters around her that really help her out. I just really like this one. I think Protector of the Small is gonna end up being one of my favorites of the entire Tortall series, but we'll see. I haven't read obviously the next 3 yet, but so far I'm really enjoying it, and they're very short and just very awesome. And again, you get to see these characters grow up, which is really cool. Okay, so that was everything that I read in November. Now I'm going to be talking about things that I want to read in December, and I've already mentioned a couple of these, but I'm pretty much just going to speed right through them because I don't want to say too much because a lot of them are sequels or part of a series, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so as I mentioned, I want to read Paige, which is the second book in the Protector of the Small series by Tamara Pierce. I also have Squire and First Night, or is it, I think it's Lady Night, sitting just behind the camera, and I'm going to read those as well probably this month because again, I have all the audiobooks ready for me. I'm just kind of in the middle of some other stuff right now, so we'll get to this probably like tomorrow. I guess that being said, I should mention what I'm currently reading, which is Reawakened by Colleen Hook. I always pronounce that wrong, but I'm almost done with this. As you can tell, again, I'll probably finish this one today. I ordered the next 2 from Book Outlet on their Black Friday sale, so I'm very excited to be continuing this series as well. I, as a kid, like used to be obsessed with Egyptian mythology and history, and seeing it like literally come to life in this is so exciting and so cool for me, and I am just loving this so much, so I can't wait to finish it. I also want to finally finish Queens of Fenburn by Kendara Blake. This is the prequels that come before the 3 Dark Crowns series. I should say, as a spoiler alert, that don't read these before you read like the first 2 or 3 books in the 3 Dark Crowns series, because there are massive spoilers in here for a lot of stuff that happens in those books, and I definitely would recommend doing it the way that I'm doing it. Read the entire like 4 book series first and then read these after. This is moving a little bit slower for me. I'm not 100% sure why, and I can't tell if it's maybe because the tone or like the tense that's written in is different. I would have to compare it to 3 Dark Crowns, but I think it is, and that's why I'm just kind of like, ugh, get on with it. But I'm more than halfway done at this point, so I'm really hoping to finish this in December. And another one that I've been talking about forever, and comes out in April, is Ruthless Gods by Emily A. Duncan. I did not make any progress in this last month, even though I was like, I'm gonna finish it and be awesome. No, I'm a liar. So I really want to finish this in December. Honestly, at this point, I think I might not finish it until January or the end of January, just because there are like so many other books that I want to read right now. As I mentioned, I want to finish like the entire Protector of the Small series, so that's going to take up a lot of time, and then there's some other stuff I want to read, obviously like the Reawakened series, and yeah, there's just a lot. So I promise I will get to this before the release date though, and put up a arc review of it because I really want to. Okay, and then one of the last ones that I want to read this month, because as always I don't want to make my list super long because then it ends up being really intimidating for me, which is why I probably shouldn't have even put Ruthless Gods on this list, because I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, the last book that I'm definitely for sure going to try to get to this month is Royal Assassin, which is book number 2 in the Farseer trilogy, What's Wrong With Me, by Robin Hobb. This one is much longer than the first one was too, and I just got the audiobook the other day, so I'm going to listen to it and probably read also at the same time, but I just have a feeling this is going to be so damn good, and I can't wait. I'm just so excited to see how Fitz grows up even more, that surly little kid. I don't know, I am just loving this so much. So if you're also a big fan of Robin Hobb, definitely leave me a comment down below because we can talk farcier. I haven't read anything else yet, so no spoilers. But as far as things that I want to read in December, I think that's pretty much it. I, again, don't want to make a huge long list and then not end up getting to anything, so I'm keeping it pretty short and sweet. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're having a great holiday season. I just want to say that I am so happy to be home this year because last year I wasn't home for Thanksgiving or Christmas. I was in London, which obviously was amazing, but it is just so good to be with my family and to be reading and comfortable and at home and just with my boyfriend and his family, and it's just really, really great. Happy holidays, everyone, and have a lot of fun shopping this month. Speaking of shopping though, we are still having a Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday deal that I'm gonna extend just for those of you who are watching here on YouTube. You can get 25% off all of the book sleeves in our shop. This includes ones that have already been discounted, like our summer book sleeves and our scrunchies. We also sell buttons if you're interested in those. But 25% off is the deepest discount we've ever done, so definitely get your book sleeves. I will leave a link down below with the coupon code, so go check that out, and I hope to be sending you a book sleeve very, very soon. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you can find me also down in the links below on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, of course, as always. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!